Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz here on a Sunday night, as always, with you. Ready to talk about, Big 12 sitting back, kicking back, watching everybody fight, watching conference realignment kicking year again out of the ACC and saying, hey, this is pretty good. We got our media day out of the way early. We're ready for a football season. I don't know what all this drama is going on with everybody else. Big 12 winning the offseason. I would tell you it is the Big 12 really winning the offseason right now, the way things have played out. Kind of crazy, but that thought dawned on me, and I was like, this is our lead tonight, folks. This is our lead. We're going to rank some Big 12 coaches. At least we're going to react to the CBS Sports ranking, which I know has already fired some people up, particularly, I would say, West Virginia fans from what I can see so far, but I'm sure there are plenty of fan bases that will take a bit of issue with the way they decided to rank Big 12 coaches. I'll give you my reaction there. We also have now determined officially the Big 12's most valuable brand. I shouldn't really say officially. That's probably not totally fair, but we can argue until the cows come home about who is the Big 12's most valuable football brand, but we got a very surprising choice from The Athletic when they broke it down with at least a somewhat scientific formula. Maybe not a perfect formula, but a somewhat scientific formula to give us the most valuable brand in Big 12 football. So, with all that being said, we may have time to get to a story about some financial troubles in the Big 12 as well. We'll see. Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm not sure if we'll have time. Everybody who gets that reference, you are immediately my friend. Okay, please do like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as you file in here tonight. Appreciate all of you for doing that. Make sure and subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That is ofbnews.com. A lot of interest this week in the latest anonymous player survey poll update that I posted, which was about who's got the best and worst road locker rooms in the Big 12. Best and worst road locker rooms in the Big 12. You can find the answer. ofbnews.com. Get subscribed to that newsletter. You'll find a link in one of the welcome emails to the old articles. You can find that there. Still got more to roll out this week. I think there's 2 or 3 more parts to this, including the players talking about the craziest things coaches have done to try and lure them into the portal. That will either be coming this week or very early next week. So make sure you get in for that. You can also make sure and submit a super chat if you want to guarantee that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight. You can do that by clicking the $ below the chat box. Fill up the regular chat anyway. You guys know, especially if you are going to be a very grumpy fan of the Big Ten or the SEC, I may just read your comment anyway. So you can always take that chance. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you would like to support the channel that way and you're not watching live and you want to still be a part of the live experience. If you contribute and send me a message there, I will read it to kick off the next show. I'm going to double check here that we didn't have any Venmo messages. I don't think there were, but I want to make sure just in case. No, we are good. I got to Bob last time. So, okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Appreciate all of you. Ron, you are certainly no grump. We appreciate you being here as always. Let's get right to it. Okay. How did the Big 12 win the offseason? Well, look, it's easy to write off July in college football as a big nothing burger. Yes, we do have conference media days, but what does it really mean in the end? But I'm here to tell you what has transpired this month has actually all been, I think, very good for the Big 12 and its future. And it reminds me of, nobody likes really being involved in drama. I should amend that. Some people seem to like it. Most people do not like being involved in drama. But if you're seeing drama play out among some other coworkers or some friends of yours, and you're watching it happen, and as it's happening, you're like, man, this is pretty interesting. But I am so glad. You have this feeling like, I am so glad that this doesn't involve me. I am so glad that I don't have to deal with this. I'm not involved with this. I think that's how the Big 12 has to feel about watching the ACC and then the SEC and Big 10 right now throughout this month of July when the Big 12 had, a solid media days, but certainly nothing to the level of the realignment drama happening in the ACC or the infighting between the SEC and the Big 10. So Here's the list. Here's the list of everything I would list that is significant that has happened in all of this. First of all, the smallest of what has happened, but I did like that Brett Yormark took a weapon out of the media's hands by getting rid of the media poll. Not going to let somebody brandish this against Arizona State or BYU or whoever that would happen to be this year. The Big Ten and the SEC are absolutely fighting with each other. I mean, Greg Sankey can say whatever it is that he wants about what his relationship with Tony Petitti is like, but the conferences were trading shots and trading barbs at each other at the podium throughout both of their media days. They had drastically different messages. All of this, I think, leads to the place where there's a significant disagreement here that definitely was not there before. So that, I think, is very significant. We also have the media latching on to how ridiculous, in particular, the Big Ten has been. But, the media is providing some legitimate pushback right now on the idea of, obviously, the 4 auto bids. But even if you take it back to last season, how crazy the SEC outcry for different strength of schedule metrics to be used, like changing the way we're doing the playoff selection committee. All of this stuff, the SEC and Big Ten basically have been acting ridiculously drunk with power, and they are getting called out by the media. And that temperature rose this week with everything that happened in Vegas with the Big Ten. And then finally, ACC realignment is heating up again. So if you are somebody that wants to see the Big 12, which I am a little bit conflicted here on this last part. For a while, it was, let the ACC implode, pick up everybody else. Then I start to see the involvement that Cody Campbell's having, possibility of what could go down in Washington, and you think maybe it's just best to hope for status quo until you can get a Super League at some point. I don't really know, but this could be of benefit to the Big 12 if you do turn into legitimately the third best conference out there, I suppose. So anyway, that's the rundown of everything that has happened. Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth once again on the preseason poll. You guys know the deal there, to dive a little bit deeper into all these topics. I don't need to go crazy deep on that. I think it's very clear Arizona State and BYU were hurt in their playoff positioning. We'll put it that way, because for Arizona State, it was not being the 3 seed instead of Boise. And for BYU, it was just not even getting consideration. I think they were hurt by the 13 and the 16 by their names and the fact that they controlled the conference in terms of storylines for the year. BYU, the first 2/3, Arizona State, the last third. They were definitely hurt by everybody having an excuse to say, well, this league sucks because the 16th place team is the one that's winning it and the 13th place team is the one that was unbeaten. We were just waiting for the other shoe to drop as soon as they lost, right? I think that's very clear. Some people apparently do not, or at least do not care to even explore that, but that's fine. That's their prerogative. So I like that the Big 12 took that media poll out of the hands of those who might wield it against the league eventually. But now, I mean, the real meat of this is, look, the Big Ten and the SEC just absolutely spent the last 2 weeks fighting with each other. And what started as just a comment from R. Webb, one of the great followers of this channel here, like, hey, that might have been a poison pill by Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips. I'll stick Jim Phillips in there too, to float this 5+11 playoff idea to just turn the Big Ten and the SEC against each other, get them worked up, get them fighting. I mean, look, that's exactly what's happened. That's exactly what's happened. And it led to a bad look in a lot of ways for especially the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten has, you guys can sit here, and I know I'm trying to remember the guy's name from the last live chat. Like, I know there are those of you that would sit here and say, well, no, but you're exaggerating on the Big Ten. Nobody thinks it was that bad, yada, yada. Go look at the media coverage of this. Like, the Big Ten got pretty widely dragged through the mud for the way that not only Tony Petitti acted and what he said, but the way that everybody followed suit. Pat Forty, for instance, called it cultish consistency, with which the Big Ten coaches all stood up there one by one at the podium and just parroted what Tony Petitti had to say. And this is the greatest thing ever, this 4-4-2-2-1 model. It is the greatest thing ever. You guys should all like it. And that's where we get to gaslighting. Stuart Mandel wrote the entire article for The Athletic about how the Big Ten tried to gaslight everybody here, in his words. Basically, like, no, you guys are crazy. This would be great. Everyone should love it. What are you talking about that people don't like this? This is a tremendous thing. That was the whole tone from Petiti, and Stuart Mandel called it out, called it gaslighting. And he even followed up with a tweet afterwards. It was like, I've heard from so many people who basically agreed with that and thought it was crazy what the Big Ten was trying to do. Pat Forty wrote multiple articles calling everybody out. I mentioned that he said he used that phrase cultish consistency, which I thought was such a great and appropriate phrase for what was going on there in Vegas. And then you had, look, if Greg Sankey is going to sit here and say, well, look, it's fine. I have a good working relationship with Tony Petiti. Okay, but Greg, you got in on the fighting yourself. Like, Greg Sankey got involved with this. So it starts with James Franklin, who is at the podium and multiple times referred to the SEC as that other conference. Okay. That other conference, really taking a page from the Ohio State book, that school up north, right? That type of thing. And so then Greg Sankey decided to respond in kind with this: greetings from that other conference. Now, as somebody who can appreciate a good Twitter back and forth, a good Twitter battle, greetings from that other conference, that is funny. That is funny. But that's Greg Sankey playing into this and taking part in this, when his message right before that was, no, you guys, it's fine. You're making too big a deal out of this. We're fine. We're cool. We're tight. Everything's good. I found that to be pretty funny. Like, Sankey clearly is still involved in all of this to a degree. So, yeah, they're fighting, guys. Like, mommy and daddy are fighting. That is a thing. And everybody was just distracted all the way around. I mean, even Paul Feinbaum, now I know this is from the ACC, but Paul Feinbaum was sitting there talking about, like, wanting to throw hands with Rhett Lashley, because Rhett Lashley said the SEC was top heavy because they've only had 6 teams win the conference since like the mid 60s. Okay. Glad your head is where it needs to be, Mr. Feinbaum. This rift, though, is, I mean, it's the absolute best thing that could have happened to the Big 12. Like, the best move, I have said, in the short term is definitely to just keep the playoff at 12. You don't have to sign on the dotted line that you are half the worth of the Big Ten of the SEC, and there are then less bids to be scooped up, less at-large bids to be scooped up by the SEC and Big Ten than there would be with 5+11. So you don't get lapped as much in terms of how many teams are going to be in the field from your league versus the others. So this is best case scenario. Get them distracted, kick that can down the road to 2026 and see what happens. See if they can agree on anything then. See how long this is going to go. See how much the Big Ten is really going to stick to its guns, with Fox now very clearly pulling the strings. I mean, I guess they obviously always have, but this is one of those weeks where it really just brings it into full view how much that is happening, that Tony Petiti is just being pulled from above, like the NSYNC video, Bye Bye Bye. It's the second time I've used that reference, I know. But the puppet master pulling the strings. It's all out there, and it's good if you get them fighting with each other. Look, another easy analogy here, I think, to understand. Like, if you're walking, you're the Big 12, you're walking, you don't have the horse and buggy, right? You don't have the carriage. It's being pulled by 2 horses. If the 2 horses are working in concert together, pulling that thing away, I mean, you're never going to catch them. That thing is going to gallop off into the sunset. Good luck. But if they're kicking each other, if they're busy trying to fight with each other for, who is better, and they're wasting their time kicking dirt on one another, it's going to move slower. They're not going to run away as fast from you. So keep these 2 distracted and fighting. And media narratives, too, I do think can play somewhat of a role, which you might scoff at, and I can understand that because I've gotten this pushback before. I mean, who really cares, John? All this posturing and whatever. In the end, nobody has the authority other than the Big Ten and the SEC, so they will still be able to make the call. Like, okay, sure, they still can make whatever decisions that they really want. But if they're going to be widely unpopular, that does, I mean, I think we've already seen how that resistance can matter. Like, we've already seen some of the tactical maneuvering here, trying to get around the initial blowback to the 4-4-2-2 idea when it was trotted out there like a year ago. Nobody liked it then, and it was getting crushed in the media. And so they kind of backed off of it. And then they sort of tried to come back. And then at one point they leaked the story to Heather Dinich at ESPN. Oh, we might actually take TV ratings and brand value in here to determine which conference gets how many bids, and floating something of a poison pill there. Josh Pate, I thought, was great to point that out. Like, hey, they're trying to throw something out there that's worse that they know you guys will freak out about, so they can slip something in that they really want that doesn't seem as bad in relation to that. That was all like in reaction to how the media and fans reacted to all of these things. So the more that people get up in arms about this, I do think it has an impact. And even social media, guys, like even social media, I think we see like politicians, for instance, react to social media way more than they should. I think it's just natural. Like, I don't think what people are tweeting at twitter.com really is a great representation of the average person out there, the average constituent of a politician. But I think they clearly govern and maneuver based on what they see there. So like it or not, but I mean, that's obviously a totally different statement on our society and where we're at right now. But I do think it has some legitimacy to it that could affect actions based on what the reaction is. So the way that everything has happened here, I think, is pretty beneficial for the Big 12 with all of that. And then on top of that, this, I think, is a more debatable point on how much it really truly helps the Big 12, because I have become a little more optimistic about some kind of Super League proposal eventually utilizing that Sports Broadcasting Act to pool all the rights together and create something of a Project Rudy type of format. That has gone from being complete and total pipe dream to, I mean, probably still a pipe dream, but at least something that's a little bit more in my purview. So I don't know if the best case scenario anymore is like, hey, just wait for the ACC to blow up if you're the Big 12 and then scoop everybody else up and be that third tier conference. But it seems like that may be where we're headed sooner rather than later, right? Just as soon as you start buying into like, oh, it'll be 2030 before we see the next round of all of this. Guys, this week, I mean, the ACC realignment stuff is really, really heating up, man. If it were with baseball, they talk about the hot stove, the offseason. We get like the realignment hot stove every offseason in college football, man. And as much as you try to keep it quiet, something heats up. Like, it's been 2 years since we had legitimate movement here. 2023, the great summer of 2023. All hail Lord Karen. When Karen and Endeavor and all of that, those big meanies, they pulled apart the Pac-12 and brought the four corners to the Big 12. That was 2 years ago. You thought last year we might get away from it. And instead, at this time last year, we were all talking about, hey, like Florida State and Clemson are actually having some level of preliminary talks with the Big 12, like as a contingency. Florida State and Clemson were suing the ACC. And everybody was thinking, all right, well, this may happen sooner rather than later. And then you think, well, finally they get the settlement. 2030s when that conference buyout to get out of the ACC goes down under $100 million. It'll be until then. Nope, wrong. Couple things here. Some people really rolled their eyes at this North Carolina report that came out from Inside Carolina last week. I think that's a little foolish because, yes, I mean, we all know North Carolina would like to get out of the ACC at some point. That much is true. But the general idea and tone of this seemed to be sooner rather than later. That, to me, was the more intriguing part about it. I mean, here was, quote, perhaps in the near future, they could be in the SEC. That was a line from the story. Now that is very juicy. That is newsworthy. That is newsy. Here's another report that I saw today. I guess it's a report. It's so hard to determine what specifically is a report. On3 wrote about this. It comes from a radio interview on the Feinbaum show on Friday. But the Post and Courier Scott Hamilton said Friday on the Paul Feinbaum show that he heard North Carolina could have a gentleman's agreement in place with the SEC. Quote, handshake agreement, I believe is the way it was specifically phrased. And the same person told Scott Hamilton that Virginia could also be looking toward the Big Ten. Virginia is an interesting player in all of this. But, I mean, the point is now it's like, all right, ACC, you think you got a nice win here. Jim Phillips, even though I would have told you it was a huge win for Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, any of those schools when it happened. But the ACC feels like, all right, we at least bought some stability for like 5 years or whatever. No, that does not look like that's the case, man. Carolina seems to be trying to push all of this stuff now. I mean, you could really, if you want to get way in the weeds on this, I mean, I would definitely suggest listening to Greg Flugar's show right now, Peek Around the Corner, because I know he is talking a lot about this, and that this could potentially go deeper than just North Carolina in terms of schools that are positioning themselves right now. We always talk about the trickle-down effect that happens when ideas start. And I guess this is really more like a trickle-up. But the specific example was, hey, the Big 12 starts looking at private equity, right? That story comes out. And everybody's like, well, wait, I mean, hold up. If you do that and you do that as a way to make money, the bigger leagues they're going to follow suit on that. Like the SEC and Big 10 will do that too. Absolutely. Of course. And like, I mean, yeah, that's probably right. Of course, I would think that happens. Well, now, what about what we saw with Memphis in the Big 12? Memphis was like, hey, wait. SMU kind of showed us like we could sort of buy our way in, but how about instead of just not taking revenue, we throw hundreds of millions of dollars your way? Our school is going to be able to try and buy their way out, buy their way in to the Power 2, the SEC and Big 10. Maybe schools that are like a tier below what you thought would be legitimate options for some of those leagues. I would watch for some copycatting of that going on. And it's not like they're all just reacting to the Memphis story breaking now. I'm sure many in college athletics kind of knew about that. And SMU, I mean, we're now a year plus removed from SMU doing it. So that idea has been out there. You're going to see the urgency start to ratchet up here, especially as the North Carolina stuff continues to swirl and swirl as much as it has been. So I add that to all of this to say, one, I guess at least, again, if you're the Big 12, you're not involved in this. This is not your drama. You get to stay outside and watch Stacy from accounting have to deal with all the drama in the accounting department. And you do not have to worry about it. You're interested, but you're so relieved that it's not your drama. There's at least that for the Big 12. But there obviously is a potential advantage there, which would be if you wind up becoming the catch-all clear number 3 conference, you more or less absorb the second tier ACC brands, your Louisville's, your Pitts, schools of that ilk. You know, I mean, we'll see about like an NC State or a Virginia Tech. That could get really interesting. But some of those types of schools, is that something that happens? You want to keep watching for that. And really just anytime the tectonic plates of realignment start to shift, you never know exactly what's going to happen or where it's going to wind up. So it always serves you to be very much on your toes when that happens. So I'm still a little bit of the mindset of like, is it better if you just remain stable until 2030 and everybody can make a move? Like we can, who knows what could happen between now and then in Washington, Cody Campbell influence, all these sort of things that have been brewing, I think, positively for the Big 12. But really, to put a bow on all this, I mean, the original premise was, hey, it's been a hell of an offseason for the Big 12. I didn't even consider in putting this segment together until right this second. I mean, the impact of Cody Campbell. Like, Cody Campbell has risen on the scene as a major player here. Somebody that absolutely can wield a lot of influence over where things go. So that has also been a very, very good development for the Big 12. So, look, I think that's the justification for where I'm at. That's the justification for why I would tell you, as this video says, Big 12 has won the offseason, and it's been a nice couple of weeks to kick back after the Big 12 got its media days out of the way early. Okay, please do like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody who is here. As you file in, fill up the comment section. If you want to guarantee your question or comment makes it on the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box. Appreciate anybody who does that, and make sure you are subscribed to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. That's ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of the video, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of the video. If you want to get on that anonymous player survey, I've got a great one coming up, probably the most entertaining piece of the anonymous player survey I've had in the 2 years of doing it now, where I asked players what the craziest thing is that a coach or team has done to try and get them in the portal to come to their school. It was good stuff. You'll get that, I believe, this next week. I should have double checked my publishing schedule, if you will, before I came on the air. but within the next week and a half, for sure, it will be out there. So get signed up. Appreciate you all. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you want to leave a question or comment there, I will kick off the next show with it so you can still be a part of things if you are watching this not live. Okay, CBS Sports is going to make everybody mad. I want to put that out there. Don't put this evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I know you guys will light up the comments, and sometimes you get carried away and you think just because I mentioned this list that it was my list. This is not my list. This is not my list. Okay. If I were going to do lists, I kind of like doing the tiers thing instead of just ranking 1 through whatever, especially in the Big 12 right now. It's too hard. Okay. But they ranked from 1 to 16 the best coaches in the Big 12. And this has some Big 12 fan bases very mad. Anytime you do a list like this, you're going to get some people furious. So let's talk about it, shall we? Let's talk about it. Did I pull this one up? I think I pulled this one up so that you guys could all look at it. Nope, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't. Okay, I will rattle these off for you really quick. And then I'm going to get into my reaction to it. And we're going to establish like some parameters on how I will react to it. Because some of this, obviously everything is subjective. But it is very important to consider, like, what are we doing here? What are the specifics on this? Am I ranking these coaches on who do I want to win a game tomorrow? Am I ranking these coaches on what they are at this stage of their career? Am I ranking these coaches based on their career accomplishments? Is it a mix of all of that, which is really what I believe this is from what I could tell reading CBS Sports? And it was all of their experts ranking the coaches together and then basically using that to generate the ranking. So it's not even one guy. You guys can't even be mad at one guy. My dude, Shahan Jayaraja, I believe his name was on the story, but it's a panel of people that picked this, right? So please don't just go after him. He's a great, great dude and one of the best out there doing it right now. Here is their list. Okay. Here is their list. Number 1, Matt Campbell. Number 2, Kyle Whittingham. Number 3, Chris Kleiman. Number 4, Lance Leipold. Number 5, Kenny Dillingham. Number 6, Kalani Sitake. Number 7, Dion. Number 8, Mike Gundy. 9, Sonny Dykes. 10, Dave Aranda. 11, Willie Fritz. 12, Rich Rod. 13, Joey McGuire. Then you got Scott Satterfield, Scott Frost, and Brent Brennan. Brent Brennan to wind it on down. I am going to see if I can pull this up for you really quick because I think it will be helpful for you to have that to look at instead of just having to, remember that. But the top 2, how do you feel about the top 2? Start there, obviously. Kyle Whittingham coming in at number 2, just behind Matt Campbell. That's, look, to me, I think it is pretty fair to have both of those guys as the top 2 coaches. I'm not going to fight that too hard. The tough thing here about this ranking, I think Matt Campbell is going to, it's more natural for him to get a little bit of a bump when he just completed the best year in school history, right? I mean, that certainly makes sense that you would give him a little bit of an extra bump here. I've got the list pulled up for you now. My apologies. Bear with me, guys. Okay, here you go. So you can see it all right now. Matt Campbell's going to get a little bump, a little kiss for when exactly this happened. He just had his best year, and he just had the best year in Iowa State program history this past season. Okay? He is far and away the most successful coach in Iowa State history. I think that matters. That should factor in here. It's all relative. An 11-3 season at Alabama is going to be judged a lot differently than at Iowa State, right? That makes sense. So if we are combining, which again, I'm going with we're combining what they are now, who would I want to go win a game tomorrow, what their career accomplishments are. I'm cool with Matt Campbell being at the top of that list. I would also be cool with Kyle Whittingham being at the top of that list. If you said, hey, longevity should matter here, he's got more longevity. He's got, I would say, like more sustained higher highs than Matt Campbell. He also had to, take Utah into 2 different new conferences now. And obviously they had a bunch of success in the Pac-12. You can easily make a case for Kyle Whittingham as well. So 1, 2, I'm fine with it. And the only reason I would say like Chris Kleiman at number 3, I'm also fine with Kleiman being like I would probably have him behind those two right now. He doesn't have the longevity that Kyle Whittingham does. So a very similar resume in terms of like what Kleiman and Whittingham have been, winning like 8, 9 games basically every single year, jumping up with a conference title every now and then. They are pretty similar, but Whittingham has more longevity at the power 4/5 level. Okay. So I'm cool with him dropping off there. And look, Matt Campbell has done it at a place in Iowa State historically more difficult. I mean, K-State in the line, we're at like, I know people will say, well, pre-Bill Snyder, John. Look, I was born the year Bill Snyder got to K-State. I'm 35 years old. It's been 35 years of pretty solid to good to sometimes very good football history for K-State. Bill Snyder himself won 11-plus games 7 times. Iowa State had never done it in school history until last year. That's a tougher place to do it, where Matt Campbell has done it. And he's won 4 of the last 5 against Kleiman. So I'm okay with the way the list breaks down there. Leipold and Dillingham, I actually was kind of pleasantly surprised here. Much as I love Kenny Dillingham, and boy, do I. It's easy coming off of a year that he had where he gets that close to making the college football playoff semifinals. Very easy to just, we got to vault him up to like 1 or 2 or like something up there. I think good restraint here and pretty fair on Dillingham because we got to see it longer. And I mean, I think Dillingham probably is going to deliver on that, but we need to see it first before we actually do anything like that in the rankings. We can't get too crazy. You can have a 1-year wonder. That has happened many a time. Get a 1-year wonder. You can't get too crazy on it. Even though Dillingham, I don't think shows signs of slowing down. So Lance Leipold, Lance Leipold has had a nice long period of success over about, I guess we're at like, it's just going to be year 4 since the big breakthrough year. This will be the 4th season of it, plus the history that he had as a head coach at other stops. I think it's cool to have Leipold still above him there. Sataki and Dion, man, that's this is why I like tiers, because I would say that both of those guys to me are very similar in terms of like being on the same type of tier. I think they have both elevated their programs. I think that Dion obviously took over a program that was in a worse spot. He has not hit as high a high as what Kalani Sitake hit last year, punctuated obviously by a head-to-head win for Sitake in the bowl game. So it's hard to parse that directly. I'm okay if you want to put Kalani above Dion. I'd be okay if you want to flip-flop that and say Dion's job was harder. I think they're the same type of tier. Now, Mike Gundy at 8, that's hard. I think it's harsh. Not only hard, I think it's harsh. I would have Gundy above Dion and Kalani Sitake for sure right now, just because of sheer career accomplishment, man. And I know I've been somebody who is pretty skeptical on Mike Gundy ever getting it back, ever recapturing the magic, and that this could really be the end. But I think you got to pay a little bit more respect to Gundy for the longevity here and what he's done. Not only longevity, but some high highs along the way. I'm not even saying I don't think Oklahoma State is going to be a great team this year. Could they be a bowl team? Yeah, sure. I don't think they're going to be much more than that, but I still would give Mike Gundy the respect of at least like number 6 on this list. At least number 6. Now we're entering the territory where, like, I saw some West Virginia fans very upset. Shout out to my guy, Mountaineer Paul. You should all go subscribe to his channel, Locked On West Virginia. Not happy with Rich Rod being at number 12. And as a knee-jerk reaction, like, I can definitely understand looking at it and being like, wait, like, number 12, hold up. If I were to look at this, I would say it seems fair. If you wanted to put Rich Rod between 8 and 10, I wouldn't fight you too hard on that. I guess really it's like 9 to 11, because I'm not going to put him above Mike Gundy. But if you want to argue Sonny Dykes, Dave Aranda, and Willie Fritz, I'll welcome that argument. And think that it's fair. Look, Rich Rod's accomplished a lot. He won 3 or 4 Big East titles. back in the mid 2000s, and he won 10 games and took Arizona to 2010. Would that have still been a BCS Bowl? Won 10 games at Arizona in between a disastrous stretch at Michigan, and he was very successful at a lower level at Jacksonville State. So there's a lot more meat on the bone than, for instance, like Scott Frost's resume, which I think is appropriate at 15. I mean, 14, 15, 16, that all looks good to me. I don't think there's much argument there. But we're going to put Rich. It's been 11 years. 2014 was that 10-win season at Arizona. It has been over a decade since Rich Rod actually did have a double-digit win season at a Power 4 or 5 program. If we're just looking up the list, look, Willie Fritz has not done that. So again, I think Willie Fritz is a great coach, but if you wanted to move Rich Rod because of past accomplishments above Willie Fritz, I wouldn't fight you too hard on that. Now we get to Dave Aranda. I mean, that's very difficult. Dave Aranda won 12 games and had the best year in Baylor history, where they finished ranked in the top 5 just 4 years ago. Okay, not 11 years ago, but 4 years ago. And then we get up to Sonny Dykes. I mean, Sonny Dykes is a tough one for me because I always do feel like he leaves a little something to be desired. But guys, 3 years ago, he coached for a national championship. He won a college football playoff semifinal. I can't put Rich Rod over him just because Rich Rod had a great season in 2007. Like I can't do that. I can't do that probably. And I know I said, hey, I would listen to the argument. I would listen to the argument. I don't know at the end of the day I would do that. I don't think that's really respectful to Sonny Dykes, who also did win 9 games last year. So it's just, I think when you go piece by piece, coach by coach, I mean, it's a league with a lot of good coaches. Now you can say, hey, I've seen Rich Rodriguez be a top coach in a power, what would it have been like Power 6? Whatever you consider the Big East back then. In a power conference before, I've seen him be a top coach. I think he can do it again. Okay, perfectly reasonable opinion to have, but that doesn't mean that you can project into the future to rank where they are on July 27th of 2025. I just think that's the break that we have on all of that, right? Like that's the difference. Also, man, Joey McGuire, boy, that seems rough. Like the guy has been the most successful coach at Texas Tech since Mike Leach. And he's stuck at 13. The only guys he's ahead of are the 3 that I think are everybody would definitively rank 14, 15, 16 in the Big 12. And it seems tough and unfair. But again, when you start to look above, like who are you putting him above? To me, it underscores a couple of things. One, like Joey McGuire is a great recruiter. Nobody is denying that, but we're still waiting on him to deliver on the field up to the caliber of what the recruiting has been. The other point that I would really make here is it just really, to me, underscores the pressure that is on Joey McGuire to deliver this year with the roster that they have. Everybody's acknowledged, like, hey, uncle, we get it. You guys have money. You got a great recruiter at head coach. You have great facilities. You've got players here. You've got dudes. All right, we get it. But you need to go actually win more than eight games on the field. That's where everybody's at with Texas Tech and Joey McGuire, and I think that's reflected in these rankings here. So those are my thoughts. I'm sure you guys all agree 100%, not only with me, but with this list from CBS Sports. And shout out to Heartland College Sports for writing it out all like this so that I could have it on one screen here. Make sure you guys go visit Heartland College Sports as well. But that's what I got for you on the coaches. Maybe I will do a tier list here in the next month before we kick off the season. You guys seem to really like the update to the Big 12 stadium list. Appreciate that, which, FYI, it hit Twitter and I saw some people like confused about what specifically it is. That was all about toughest environments to play in. That's not about the aesthetics of the stadium. That'd be a totally different ranking. I mean, Baylor, it would be tough, I think, to beat McLean Stadium in Baylor if we're going to do that, but it's a little bit different when we're talking about toughest environment. So anyway, from that, we're going to switch to another ranking that is about basically the most valuable Big 12 programs out there, which this one I know is really going to fire some people up because it's going to ignite the fire in the Big 12's most fierce rivalry. Okay. First, though, I want to remind you, please do like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. All of that really helps me. I appreciate those of you guys who do that. If you're not able to watch live, you can hit me up at John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. Drop me a question or comment there, and I will kick off the next show with your question or comment, so you can still be a part of things. And make sure you are subscribed to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com. It's ofbnews.com. To get subscribed to that, take part in the anonymous player survey. You can read that. I've got guys talking about the craziest thing a coach or a school has done to try and get them in the portal coming up very soon. Okay. All right. Most valuable program in the Big 12. Who do you think the most valuable program in the Big 12 is? We have not really had a way to objectively rank this. This would be very, very subjective until now. And this one really digs at the Big 12's best and fiercest rivalry. Okay, so get ready for that. One of the things that makes it so difficult to decide, hey, what's the most valuable program in the Big 12 is that everybody's pretty equal in terms of resources, accomplishment, etc., as evidenced by the fact that the team picked last won the league last year. Shout out to Arizona State. Give them their flowers. But that really proves this point. Like, everybody is so equal. So how do you decipher between that and choose who actually is the best brand in this league? It makes it pretty difficult. Well, The Athletic seemingly has found the solution because they put together something that they're calling part art and part science to determine the most valuable programs across college football. Now, what they are doing is they are calculating what a purchase price would be. If this were like professional sports where you could buy a franchise, they're projecting what a purchase price would be for this football program. So they used real-life pro transactions to gauge purchase prices relative to a team's revenue over the past 3 available years of data. This one will make you happy. They used MLB and NHL team sale prices as rough benchmarks for the ACC and Big 12, and then they used NFL and NBA sales as a guide for the SEC and Big 10. Okay, so obviously more expensive, more valuable entities. Now, you'll be very interested to know that the number one team on the list overall is the Texas Longhorns, valued at over $2 billion. Dr. Evil Face, $2 billion for the Texas Longhorns. Meanwhile, the top school in the Big 12, just over $500 million. So you're talking about 4 times more valuable as a property that somebody would be purchasing for Texas versus anybody from the Big 12. So that's important context that I think you all need to realize before we dive headfirst into this. Now, there's not a great way, unfortunately, to show you the entire list back to back to back with this. So I'm going to have to do it a little bit differently here as opposed to showing it to you visually, because they just have the whole list or everybody in the country pulled out there. But some things I can tell you, in addition to Texas's worth being over $2 billion, by the time you get to a Big 12 school, the number one Big 12 school is at number 29 on the list, you'd have already passed 11 schools from the Big 10 and 12 from the SEC, which, none of this should be surprising, whether or not you agree with the list or not. You know that any kind of list like this is going to put you at about that spot, whether it's best programs out there. I mean, every single year, it seems like a lot of the, your analytical top 25 start with Big 12 teams in like the 20s. And that's just the way it is. And then you'll see a bunch of them bunched up together between like 20 and 40. And that's pretty much what happened here. So your number one Big 12 brand, I'm going to make you wait just a moment to hear that, because I want to start toward the back end here first. I think the 2 most interesting teams on this list are number 1 and number 9, and they just so happen to be holy war rivals. The number 9 team on this list is BYU at $306 million. That is the valuation for BYU football. Number 9, $306 million. Number 50 overall in the country. They do make note, BYU fans. I know this is a little, like, especially when we're talking about all the value that BYU has in an NIL era. They've got a global fan base built in because of the LDS Church. They have a great basketball coach. Basketball looks like it's on the rise. AJ DeBonsta, all these things happening. I do think that is a head scratcher. But the article points out, hey, a part of this is they weigh heavily the amount of football revenue you've taken in over the last 3 years, and BYU in the last 3 years has an independent season and then 2 years of not getting full Big 12 payouts, right? Which is obviously going to change. So that does change the calculus a little bit here. BYU would be higher if they were getting a full Big 12 payout every single year. If you're curious, they were 12th over the last 3 years in the Big 12 in average revenue per year at $43.7 million. $77 million was number one in Big 12 average revenue over the last 3 years. So that's one of the things pulling BYU down. I don't think that's pulling it down all the way to 9 from 1, but it's definitely pulling it down somewhat. And really, that's why you got to take some of this list with a grain of salt. You do, because BYU should definitely be higher. If you are, I think about this, if you're like a private equity firm or you're an investor, somebody looking to make money off of it, like BYU has so much value. If you look at all the momentum that's happening there, the way they are recruiting, the NIL that they have, the booster support that they have just in general, like the energy of the university, global fan base, all of this, BYU's got a ton of potential. They should be very, very much higher. So take the list with a grain of salt. But number one, guys, who do you think that leaves for number one? Number one is Utah. Number one is Utah. Get in here, Utah fans that were trolling at the end of the chat last time. This is your moment. Utah number one. Led the conference in average revenue from football over the last 3 years. Average of $77 million a year. The interesting thing here, and this is again why I kind of have to chuckle a bit at this list from The Athletic, its big reasoning was it said Utah was from the number one state in GDP growth in 2024. Number one state in real GDP growth in 2024, which like, hey, okay, like I get it. You're saying it's in a growing area. It's in a growing area. Understood. But I still think it's the second most valuable probably in its state. The revenue number is nice. Clearly, Utah football is a big-time entity. This is not to run it, but I think if we're talking about long-term potential here, I would see more in BYU. And I guess I'm realizing now, I'm sure I have a bunch of people angry in the comments that we're talking about most valuable football programs in the Big 12, and I brought up BYU and basketball and all of that. I could make a case that some of the synergy from that could also carry over into football, but yes, okay, fair enough. I'll keep the basketball part out of this, just football. Utah certainly has the better track record over the last 10 years. The Rose Bowls weigh very heavily in all of that. But it seems a little crazy to me that you'd have Utah valued, by the way, at $539 million if somebody were to buy it, and BYU at $306 million. I mean, there's certainly not that big of a difference between those. But there's the flowers to Utah. Utah, most valuable program in the Big 12 according to this list. Now, not far behind them because Utah was number 29 nationally. TCU is number 30 nationally and number 2 in the Big 12. I saw some people speculating about that in the chat. TCU worth $523 million. They were second in 3-year average revenue in the Big 12 at $74 million. They're in Dallas-Fort Worth. In addition to being second in revenue, they're in a great metro area. Obviously, I understand how that could factor in here and make them a more valuable entity. We all see the value in that, not just because of population base and who could be your fans, even though, I mean, they don't have a massive fan base, but it's proximity to talent. Proximity to talent is the huge thing there. And that's your tier one. There's a pretty significant drop off after Utah and TCU in terms of how the Athletic views the value in the Big 12. Then you get to Texas Tech, I would say in tier 2 all alone. Texas Tech in tier 2 all alone. They're worth $440 million. So about $80 million less than TCU. They check in at number 33 overall. They were third in average football revenue over the last 3 years. And they did, Tech fans will love this, they did ding Tech for being in Lubbock because it's far away from other metros. Tech is doing a lot to change that. They're doing a lot to change that for sure, but you're still seeing it pop up everywhere. Again, my PSA on Lubbock, it's a great place. You could have an awesome life there as a college kid or otherwise because it's a real legitimate city. It is difficult to get to. Yes, it is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but if you're talking about the actual city, just be careful in the way that you're talking about Lubbock, because the actual city of Lubbock is great. Anyway, Tech at number 3, $440 million. Now you have a run of schools between 4 and 9 that are all pretty close together. Oklahoma State is 4, $373 million. Arizona State, $372 million is 5. Iowa State, $331 million is 6. Colorado 7 at $328. And I will make note here, Colorado got a $50 million boost in valuation because of Dion right now. So if you're asking what is the value of Dion at Colorado, it pumps them up to 7th from about 12th or 13th. So it moved them about 6 places up on this list, just the mere fact that they have Dion as their head coach. K-State is number 8 at $321. BYU 9 at $306. West Virginia 10 at $284, and that's where we've now had a drop off. Arizona's 11 at $282. Baylor's at 12 with $276. Then another big drop off, and you've got UCF Kansas 210 and $197. Then another big drop off, Cincinnati at $106 and Houston at $91. Houston is number 68 overall. So unfortunately for the Houston Cougars, they are very much so at the bottom of this list with only a $91 million valuation. Again, keep in mind, Texas, you want to go all the way up there, was over $2 billion. And the Big 12, your top one was over $500 million. So some context there. Like I said, I would take a lot of this with a grain of salt, but it is interesting, and I appreciate at least you can disagree with all of this. You can disagree with the logic behind it, the criteria that they used to create this list, but I at least appreciate that there was more than just like pulling it out of thin air. Hey, these are the teams that we think are the most valuable. They did come up with a system to use some metrics and try and do it like that. Okay. So, that part at least was very interesting. All right. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody who does that. Totally free. Great way to support me. If you are into the content, another great way, just subscribe to that Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. People, we are so close to 5,000 subscribers to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. We are very, very close to 5,000 subs. And I'm so grateful to all of you for helping me get there in just over a year. But if you want to catch the rest of the anonymous player survey, talk to 30-ish, around 30 Big 12 players who gave me anonymous answers at Big 12 Media Days. You can get in on that, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video in order to make that happen. And it's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you would like to leave me a question or comment there and still be a part of the conversation. I will kick off the next show with your question or comment if you do that. So thank you to all of you for being here. Wrap up with one that will probably be a little bit shorter here to end, but look, we've talked about the financial realities of everything that's coming with the rev share era, and I think sometimes people have not braced for the impact quite enough. And it's not just in the Big 12. This could have wide-ranging impacts everywhere. But in the Big 12, we're now seeing a story that shows the harsh realities here. Will have tangible impacts on facilities at one school, but also, could this be the precursor of what happens with head coaches in the Big 12, right? And look, I'll just spoil it up front. We just said that this guy, the guy who coaches at the school we're about to talk about, is the best coach in the Big 12, according to CBS Sports' panel, Matt Campbell. Okay. This report came out this week about budget deficit that is facing Iowa State. And really, this shouldn't surprise. Like Jamie Pollard, Iowa State's athletic director, has been about as upfront as anybody. I will give him credit for that. I think he's been, in terms of just like real talk, what rev share era is going to mean for schools at the Big 12's level. Jamie Pollard has been about as forthcoming as anybody with that information. And because there was a piece it was a YouTube interview the other day that I talked about on this channel where he said, like, look, we've either got to get a subsidy from the university, increase student fees, and he listed off some examples. Virginia Tech, I believe, had done the latter. Iowa does the former. He gave some examples there of things we can do, but like if we don't, then we got to make a decision. Like, are we going to be Northern Iowa? Or are we going to keep competing at the Big 12 level? We're going to keep going to Sweet 16s and playing for Big 12 championships in football. because we've got to come up with this money somehow. So this really should not be surprising that we're then seeing this follow. Like, Jamie Pollard is obviously very aware of what's going on here. But Iowa State is facing a $147 million budget deficit through 2031, or just under $25 million annually over the next 6 years. And so in order to do that, they are going to indefinitely postpone construction of a new wrestling practice facility and a $25 million Hilton Coliseum renovation. One of the things that is so painfully obvious in this new world of college football or college sports that we're in, this rev share world, is that like so much money is needed to fund these rosters. And we'll see what's going to happen with the collectives and fair market value and all that. But you need so much damn money just to pay the table stakes, to be in the game, to just be at the poker table and not even guarantee yourself any level of success, that the facilities arms race is going to change dramatically. Like Texas Tech, schools like Texas Tech that have all this unlimited money, one of the places that they can benefit the most probably is to build great facilities, which Texas Tech has right now. Nobody else is going to have the money to do that because, like, hey, if it comes down to paying the players or getting a better facility, like, yeah, you got to pay the players. If for the players, it's like, well, I don't have the fanciest locker room in the world. I'm missing a couple of iPhone chargers. I don't have a USB-C charger in my locker, but I'm going to get paid more in NIL. Yeah, obviously that's going to matter more, right? The facility stuff will get cut. So I kind of wondered, like, when we'll start hearing about more of this type of impact. Like, it becomes way less important to get your facilities in order here when, first and foremost, man, you got to take care of the players' pockets. Although Iowa State has identified about $8.7 million in annual budget savings, the $24.5 million annual funding gap is expected to culminate in a $147 million net deficit by 2031. Here are some other things. So, postponing the construction, we mentioned that. Iowa State is also no longer absorbing the cost of sales tax on tickets. So that's going to add $1.5 million that comes in. That'll obviously be passed on to the fans. They're going to have to pay for taxes on tickets. They're going to up the annual required donation levels for membership in the Cyclone Club by 20%. That will generate an extra $3 million. And they'll also mandate all sports and sport units cut costs and find savings to slow the growth of overall expenses. So going to be combing through everything else with more of a fine comb to try and find other ways to save money. That's what Iowa State is going to try and do. And look, if you think that there are not other places where this will happen, you are sorely mistaken. And that's a part of one of the things that I want to emphasize here. This is not like to pick on Iowa State. I think Jamie Pollard has been, like I said, more transparent about some of these things probably than most. And there will be lots of people in position to have to be making cuts like this. And all over the place, there are definitely people already thinking about, like, well, what can we do in each department to cut here? What is expendable? I'm blanking on the guy's name. TCU, I think, I'll be careful about not saying anything there. There was a staffer that I noticed at TCU that I believe had been let go this offseason that I wondered if that was one of these types of cuts. K-State and Iowa State are playing a game in Ireland that should be a K-State home game. They're taking a couple extra $1 million to go do that because money obviously is very tight. And one of the things, I saw somebody, and it's long ago in the chat, I'm sorry for whoever it was. If it was you, remind me, I'll give you credit. I saw somebody saying they're like, hey, what does this mean? Will Matt Campbell still be around as head coach if Iowa State is going to be slashing a bunch of things from the budget? Now, football is going to be top of the list. Like, you'll see the least amount of things slashed there. This was something for Hilton Coliseum, so maybe the better speculation would be about TJ Otzelberger. But really, Iowa State, I think, is in a pretty good position with both coaches in terms of having an alum and a guy that's going to be very motivated to stay there in Matt Campbell in football. But if it does come down to support staff or whatever, could this be something that leads to Big 12 coaches being more likely to jump? I think it's at least something to monitor. I'll put it that way. I think it's at least something to monitor right now. Like, this is definitely on my radar. Could it get to a point where over time this accumulates enough and you'll have coaches starting to look around, not not even because of like NIL stuff, but because of the resources for support staff, facilities, that type of thing. Will that be enough of a factor to drive change? We shall see. And will it be enough of a factor to drive change in terms of the Big 12 and private equity? I mean, that's another thing you got to think about with this. Like, I understand why people are averse to it. I understand why, especially like university presidents would be averse to it. But if you start seeing stories like this come out and you're having to postpone facility projects that were on the books, then maybe that makes the reality real enough that there would be reconsideration on that front. We shall see. We shall see. Larry, this is good. And Alan, I'm going to get to your super chat in just a moment to close the show. But Larry said, Florida season ticket holder, we got hit with a ticket tax on season tickets this year for the first time. It all adds up. Yep, it does. I'm sure you'll start seeing a lot of things like that. I can share our good old Discord. If you're a K-State fan, patreon.com/3maw to hop on the Discord. There's been a debate on our Discord about like K-State and like the light shows that you see. And my guy Cole, I believe, had quoted the cost of that at like $3 million or something. And fans are like, why can't we just pay that and get the cool light show? It's like, well, guys, would you rather keep Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards around, or would you rather have a cool light show? And I know that's not exactly like one-to-one how that would work, but it's kind of the idea. So, things like that, I would imagine would start to get cut. Alan, we'll close with this. Alan, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, my friend. Alan, who are your top 5 Big 12 coaches of all time? Oh, my gosh. Alan, I mean, I like the question, but it's so hard. I'm in such a tough spot, I think, on the fly with this, trying to do it on the fly. I would put Bill Snyder at number 1. I assume that we're doing this, first of all, based on coaches that are teams that are in the conference right now, right? Like, we're not talking about Mac Brown or Bob Stoops. Of all time, I want to give a little more. I like Gary Patterson, I think, needs to be up there. Kyle Whittingham needs to be up there. Matt Campbell's probably got to be in the conversation. We did do this the other day because it was Lavelle Edwards, right? Where I realized, like, oh yeah, if we're going by like historically, like Lavelle Edwards would absolutely be. That was when we were doing Rushmore. We were doing coaches Rushmore. So yeah, Lavelle Edwards, Bill Snyder for sure are making it. I think Gary Patterson's going to be on that list. Who else did I have on Rushmore, guys? I think I did have Kyle Whittingham on the list. So Kyle Whittingham, I mean, like that's a rough go at it, Alan. And well, you can run into the comments. That's fine. Run up the engagement on the video, but just know that's off the top of my head. That's off the top of the dome, guys. That's off the top of the dome without giving more time to think about it. Alan, appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And one reminder here at the end, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Help me get to 5,000. We are so close. ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will talk to you all very soon.